What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get into this video, I'd like to remind you guys, as always, that if you want to donate to my channel, you can do so on the links provided in the description box below via the PayPal or the Cash App. And of course, I have a Patreon account. I fell a little bit behind this month, but I will be uploading on there. I uploaded 2 videos yesterday, and we'll be uploading frequently this week on the Patreon. So for only $2 a month on the Patreon, you know what I'm saying, I am able to talk about stuff that I can't talk about on YouTube. And so I strongly suggest you guys who support me, you know what I'm saying, on YouTube, to come over to the Patreon for only $2 per month. I'd like to thank the last 2 signups on Patreon. And I'd like to thank anybody that's donated to my channel. Now, what else do I want to say? Oh, I've had to block a couple of people recently. Some trolls and some dude who I had to kind of lay out. And I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of having done this myself. I've done it, okay, and I was wrong. But it annoys me when people are too lazy to listen to your video, right? They're too lazy to listen to your video, or they don't have the time to listen to the video, whatever the case may be. So what they do is they read the title, right? They read the title and they look at the comment section. And then from there, they make a snap judgment based on what the commenters are saying as to what it was that you said. Then they'll just leave a comment, and the comment is totally bogus. Like the comment it tells me you didn't listen to the video at all, right? So this dude gets on me because he assumes that I was talking shit about Bernie Sanders because of his opinion about LeBron over Michael. Which, if you listen to the video, you can clearly see, you can clearly tell that I basically said, Bernie Sanders is entitled to his opinion. I don't agree with it, but he's entitled to his opinion. Then at the end of the video, I did basically say he might have said it for political purposes. Okay, analysis. So he got caught being facetious, not listening to the video. I cursed him the fuck out, blocked him. So what did the coward do? This is what some cowards do, okay? To show that they have some type of power, they'll create another account, right? They'll create an account just to talk shit to you, right? So that only I can see the comment. Talk shit to me. But then they'll delete the comment and then delete the account just so they can get back at me. Yeah, I talk shit to you, but you can't say shit to me because I deleted the account and the comment. So you only can see it, but you can't reply to it. Yeah, I won. Well, guess what? I won because I made you expend that much energy. I affected you so much that you had to go out your way to try to get the last laugh. But I got the last laugh because you create an account for nothing and then you're still blocked. Oh, and you did reveal yourself as a racist too. You know what I'm saying? When you got mad, you revealed yourself as a racist by the language used in the comment. So, having said all of that, let me get to the point of the video. It took me 4 minutes to do so. In a recent interview, I'm a little late on this. In a recent interview on The Jump, Scottie Pippen told Rachel Nichols that he thought that had the Chicago Bulls stayed together for the abbreviated 98-99 season, that he thought that the Chicago Bulls would go 50-0 that year. Now here's my opinion on that. Now the best record that year, if memory serves me correctly, was the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs, I believe, went 37-13. And they went 37-13. And I just kind of find it hard to see the Bulls going 50-0. You know, I don't know about that one. If the '96 Bulls couldn't go 50-0 at any stretch of that year, I don't know why that team would go 50-0. But I do think it's conceivable that they would have the best record in the NBA, though. I could see them going like 40-10. I could see that. The reason why I just have a hard time saying 50-0 is because these players were, as great as they were aging. Um, had they returned for another year, Scottie Pippen would have been 33 with a bad back and slowly diminishing abilities. Michael Jordan would have been 35 going on 36 with a turn. Actually, when the season started, he actually would have been 36 or just about turned 36. I think the season started in February of '99. So after the strike. So Jordan would have been about 36. Robin would have been pushing 38. So these guys were getting extremely old. Now, on the flip side, it was a shortened season. So maybe, that the fact that the season was only 50 games, maybe it wouldn't have taken the same toll of an 82 game season. But at the same time, because the season started so late, there was a lot of games compressed into a short period of time. Um, I remember there were stretches during that season where teams would play 4 games in 5 days or 6 days or something like that. Like it was some stretches where these guys were really playing a lot of basketball, and I honestly believe that uh, the reason why scoring was down so much that year, the reason why, to be honest with you, there was some ugly basketball that year is because some of these guys just weren't in great shape um, from having taken the layoff. As far as with the strike, there was some ugly brand of basketball. Now, most of the guys on the Chicago Bulls team were professionals. They were hard nosed veterans. I think they would have kept the presence of mind to keep in shape. We all know Rodman was an athletic freak who kept in great conditioning. Scottie Pippen never had any conditioning issues. Michael Jordan, when he was an active player, never had any conditioning issues. So I don't think that would have been an issue with the Chicago Bulls. Um, but 50-0, I don't see that. Uh, I do remember Michael one time saying in an interview something like he wondered if he would have lost a little bit of his competitive edge because he didn't know if a 50 game schedule or a 50 game season would something pretty much he was saying like he didn't know if that would be a challenging enough um, season for him or something like that. But I'll say this. Let's just say the domino effect didn't happen. Let's say Jerry Krause had changed his mind about firing Phil Jackson, and Phil Jackson stayed another year. Michael Jordan, who went on to eventually say he never really intended to retire. He didn't want to retire. He wanted to keep playing. Um, this is why Jerry Krause is so hated in Chicago, still after his death. No disrespect, but this is why he's still hated because he essentially was the reason why the team broke up. But let's say Jordan plays another year. Scottie Pippen stays around. Rodman stays around. Some of the key uh, guys that left via free agency, like a Steve Kerr. Uh, let's say all these guys stayed. The core. Maybe some of the fringe people leave, but all the good role players, Harper, Randy Brown. Let's say all these guys stay. Judd Bushler. Let's say he stay. They stay. Of course, Tony Kukoc, who doesn't get mentioned enough. Uh, he stays. Um, do the Chicago Bulls go on to four-peat and do something that only Bill Russell's Celtics in the 60s did? I think they could have, and I think they would have. I think they would have kind of coasted through the season to an extent, as much as coasting you could do when they have such a busy schedule and such uh, a season of brevity, but with so compacted with games. Um, I think the postseason would have brought the best out of these guys because they were known definitively this has been the last run. Um, During the season, I think Jordan's shooting struggles probably would have continued. I think just due to the fact that he's getting older. When I say struggles, I mean by his earlier prime standards. Um, I think he probably would have shot something like uh, 47% from the floor, something in that range, which is down from his 50% percentage as for his career. I think Scottie Pippen would have really, uh, I think Scottie would probably average maybe like 17 points, something like that. Scoring would have been down, I think, even more from the year prior. But I think this team would have won another championship. They would have squeezed out another championship based on their defense. If you look at the San Antonio Spurs and you look at who they played in the NBA Finals, the New York Knicks, right? And by the way, you look at the teams that the Knicks beat in the playoffs. You look at the Eastern Conference. I don't see why the Chicago Bulls would have struggled with any of those teams. Um, I think the best team that they would have played against would have been the New York Knicks. And I think they would have beat the Knicks. Because even if you look at this finals when the Spurs won in 5, I think it was, and in most of those games, it was still pretty close, even though it was a 4-1 spread. And you got to think on a Knicks team where the two only real capable scorers were Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell. And if I'm not mistaken, for the most part, Sprewell was the only one that showed up in the elimination game. I think he had like 34, 35 points. Um, you got to think with Jordan and Pippen and Kukoc, you got to think that Chicago would have still had the advantage, just the experience alone. Um, now I understand in this situation, it would have been the first time in the finals that the Bulls were going against a team with two dominant bigs. I understand that, and that's one of the things that people like to bring up on. But it's not like Chicago Bulls never played in the playoffs against a team that didn't have dominant bigs and still won. And you got to remember, this Spurs team had a reputation for being a little bit soft. And I could still see Dennis Rodman getting in guys' heads. I could see Dennis Rodman. Who was the power forward then? Was it Malik Rose? I could see Dennis Rodman getting in Malik Rose's head. And, well, actually, Tim Duncan was the power forward. Malik Rose was the backup. But I could still see Dennis Rodman, maybe getting inside of a young Tim Duncan's head. Maybe, I could see Dennis still doing some things that would upset certain guys, get in their heads. I could see the Chicago Bulls. Uh, I could see their perimeter guys going off in this supposed matchup. I could see Jordan, going off in a couple of games. Even though I do think that Jordan would have been, I think that would have been the first season where we would definitively have seen him slowing down as a player. But I still think that the Chicago Bulls would have squeezed out another championship just because of the pedigree they had, just the championship DNA, and you can't bet against the Chicago Bulls. And I think they would have won another championship, in my opinion. But I think it would have been their last. And after that, I think the Chicago Bulls would have been done. Because they wouldn't have beat the Lakers in 2000. They'd have been too old by then. And the Chicago Bulls just wouldn't have had enough. You know what I'm saying? Incidentally, the 98-99 season is the last year of definitive hand checking. And then after that, the rule changes. Um, Forbade it. Although the league didn't really, it was implemented in the rules, but they didn't really start to enforce it until like 2004, 2005. So it's just interesting that when you think about the way basketball was played back then, with such an emphasis on defense. I remember like there were so many games that year where the final score would be like 81-79, 79-76. I remember there was one game that year, the Chicago Bulls, who were horrible that year. I think the Bulls were like the inverse of the Spurs record. I think they were like 13-37 or some shit like that. But I remember there was one game that year. I think they were playing against the Pacers, and they set at the time what was a record for lowest points in the shot clock era. I think they lost like 74-55. And the NBA kind of knew that there was a problem with that. Like certain guys like me like that type of basketball, but the casuals, they didn't really like it. So over time, they've put out rules that have um, implemented rules that have really helped the offenses to the point where now instead of averaging only like uh, 86 points a game or wherever it is now, teams are averaging 111, 112. So it's a different style of basketball, but I think in this old school era, I think the Chicago Bulls will squeeze out one last championship. But tell